You know when you walk into a new gym and there is always that one piece of equipment sitting way off in the corner.
Oh yeah, the one that looks entirely too complicated.
Right, exactly. It's covered in heavy iron plates, strange pulleys, heavy straps. I mean, it looks less like a fitness tool and more like a medieval torture device.
Like you need an engineering degree just to sit on it.
Yeah. And most people, we just put our head down, walk right past it, and stick to the treadmill.
Stick to what's safe.
We stick to what we know. But the thing is, when you step into the world of spiritual disciplines, we do the exact same thing. We have this one specific tool sitting in the corner of our spiritual gym. And for most of us, it is deeply intimidating. It's entirely misunderstood. And honestly, it feels just as medieval.
It really does.
We are talking about fasting. So today we are zeroing in on chapter 9 of Dev Raghu's book, Armed with Grace, Winning the Spiritual Battles You Never Saw Coming, where he tackles this completely head on. The chapter is literally titled, The Weapon Nobody Wants to Use.
Which is such an accurate title, honestly.
It is. So, okay, let's unpack this. Our mission for you listening right now is purely practical. We've talked before about why spiritual disciplines matter, but today is all about the how. If you feel like fasting is some extreme endurance test meant only for, like, monks on a mountain.
Right, or people who just have superhuman willpower.
Exactly. If that's you, we are going to completely demystify it today. The goal here is focused prayer and dependence on God, not setting a new personal record for starvation.
Yeah, and the author points out right away that bad theology about fasting has shipwrecked a lot of really sincere believers. So before we look at how to do it, you have to look at what it isn't.
Oh, that's crucial.
Right. It is not a diet, it is not a punishment, and it is certainly not a transaction. Like, God is not a cosmic ATM that dispenses blessings just because you deposited enough physical discomfort.
Like putting coins in a machine.
Exactly. It doesn't obligate him to do anything. He answers, according to his wisdom, regardless of how many meals you skip. Fasting is a posture. It's a way of saying with your physical body what your heart believes, which is, that you need God more than you need this immediate comfort.
Let me push back on the actual mechanics of that, though. Because if we compare fasting to dieting, they look biologically identical from the outside.
I mean, physically, yeah, they look the same.
So if I take away food, I'm just going to get hungry, irritable, and probably really distracted. If I don't actively do something else with that time, aren't I basically just starving myself for a few hours?
Well, yeah, and the book actually calls that the replacement pitfall.
The replacement pitfall.
Yeah. The point of fasting isn't merely the absence of something. It's about creating an intentional void. Like if you fast from food, but you spend that time binge watching television or mindlessly scrolling through your phone just to distract yourself from the physical hunger.
Which is so easy to do.
Oh, it's the default. But if you do that, you're just substituting one comfort for another. You haven't engaged in a spiritual discipline, you've just engaged in temporary dietary restriction.
Wow, yeah.
When you abstain from food, you create a physical and temporal empty space. And the goal is that the Holy Spirit rushes in to fill that space, but you have to open the door. You have to replace the time you would have spent preparing and eating food with actively seeking God.
That makes a lot of sense. And the physiological side of this is actually really interesting to me. When you eat a heavy meal, your body expends a massive amount of metabolic energy just on digestion.
Oh, right, the classic afternoon slump.
Exactly, the food coma after a big lunch.
Right.
By fasting, you are taking that physiological energy and redirecting it. You're turning down the volume of the flesh, your physical appetites, to heighten your mental and spiritual perception.
And what's fascinating here is that heightened perception ties directly into spiritual authority. The author brings up Mark 9:29, where Jesus' disciples are completely unable to cast a demon out of a boy.
Oh, right, they try and just fail completely.
Yeah. They had authority, they had done it before, but this time their standard prayers weren't working. And Jesus tells them, this kind can come out only by prayer and fasting.
Which implies a terrifying hierarchy to spiritual battles, honestly. Like some strongholds just don't respond to standard prayer.
Right, they require a level of intensity that casual prayer just doesn't reach. When you combine prayer with fasting, you are physically demonstrating to the unseen realm that you are entirely invested. You are breaking the standard operating procedure of your daily life to address a spiritual reality.
It moves fasting from a religious chore
Yeah.
to an actual vital weapon.
Exactly. And historically, the early church utilized this constantly. Matthew 6.16 shows Jesus giving instructions on spiritual disciplines, and he doesn't say if you fast, he says when you fast.
Yeah, he groups it right in there with giving to the poor and praying. Like, he took it for granted that anyone following him would just be doing it.
It was normative. It wasn't an extra credit assignment for the super spiritual elite. And the text points to Acts 13 and Acts 14 too. When the church at Antioch was sending out Paul and Barnabas on their very first missionary journey, they were worshiping and fasting.
Wow.
Yeah, and when they appointed elders in the new churches, they did it with prayer and fasting. They saturated every major decision and transition in this discipline.
Okay, but when we look at that biblical precedent, though, the most famous example is Jesus fasting for 40 days in the wilderness.
Right.
And if I'm a beginner, listening to this while driving to work or walking the dog, hearing 40 days shuts me down completely.
It's terrifying.
It sounds impossible. And honestly, it sounds biologically unsafe for a normal person. If I want to see actual movement in my spiritual life, do I have to attempt something that extreme?
No, not at all. And the book strongly and explicitly refutes that idea. The author actually pleads with the reader, like, please do not start with 40 days. A beginner absolutely does not need an extreme fast. The underlying mechanism of fasting is spiritual muscle memory.
Back to the gym analogy.
Exactly. You don't build muscle by attempting a 500-pound deadlift on your very first day in the gym.
You just break your back.
Right, you'd end up in the hospital. You get in shape through consistent, moderate effort. The exact same rule applies to spiritual discipline. Regular, moderate fasting rewires your brain and builds spiritual endurance much better than a one-time extreme marathon that just leaves you burnt out, sick, or spiritually discouraged.
So it's about consistency, not duration.
Consistency matters far more than dramatic duration, yeah.
So let's get into the practical menu for beginners then. Because if extreme duration isn't the goal, we need a manageable starting point.
Absolutely.
The book suggests the absolute simplest place to start is what it calls the meal fast. You literally just skip one meal. Yeah. The author recommends starting with lunch. You skip your normal lunch and you use that specific hour to pray. You don't get the severe lightheadedness or the blood sugar crashes that come with a multi-day fast, but you still experience that cognitive shift of the discipline.
And the genius of the single meal fast is how it utilizes your body's natural triggers. Like when it's your usual lunchtime, your body releases ghrelin, the hunger hormone.
Your stomach starts growling.
Right, and your brain sends a biological signal saying, go get food. But instead of merely enduring that discomfort or complaining about it to your coworkers, you hijack that biological signal. You use it as an alarm clock.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, every single time your stomach growls at 1:00 p.m., you use that physiological prompt as a reminder to pray about the specific situation you are fasting for.
So you're turning a physical craving into a spiritual trigger.
Exactly.
Instead of your body controlling your focus, you are forcing your body to remind you of your spiritual purpose. That is a completely different way to look at hunger.
It really reframes the whole experience, and once you master that, you can stretch a bit further. The text details the day fast, which is fasting from sunrise to sunset.
So just daylight hours.
Right. You commit one specific day to fasting and prayer, making absolutely sure to drink plenty of water, of course. The author notes that building a regular rhythm, even just committing to one day a month, creates a profound cumulative effect over time. You are regularly reminding your flesh that it is not in charge.
Then there's a third option for food fasting that the text highlights for extended periods, which is the Daniel-style fast, based on Daniel chapter 10.
Yeah, a lot of people have heard of this one.
Right. This involves eating simple plant-based foods for a defined period, typically like 21 days. So no meat, no sweets, no processed foods, no alcohol or caffeine.
Which is tough.
It is. But on the surface, that sounds exactly like a trendy detox diet. How do we keep that from just becoming a nutritional cleanse?
It really comes down to the psychological difference between total abstinence and strict limitation. Like, in a total fast, the complete lack of food is your reminder. In a Daniel fast, you are still eating, but the simplicity of the food becomes the reminder.
I see.
It is a posture of intentional self-denial. And it's highly practical because it allows you to maintain your daily work, your family responsibilities, and your normal energy output. But every time you sit down to a stripped-down, flavorless meal while your coworkers are eating pizza.
That's the worst feeling.
Right. But that contrast forces a cognitive recognition of why you are doing it. Every single meal becomes the persistent state of awareness that you are seeking God for something specific.
Now, we have to bring up a crucial caveat from the book right here, because balance and wisdom are vital. Food fasting is not for everyone.
No, definitely not.
The text is incredibly clear on this. If you have diabetes, an eating disorder, a heart condition, if you are pregnant, or if you have any significant medical condition or take medication affected by food intake, you must consult a doctor before fasting from food.
Yeah, that's non-negotiable.
God is not asking you to harm yourself. God created science and medicine too, and ignoring your biological reality is not a badge of spiritual honor. It's just reckless.
It really is. Which naturally brings up the alternative, right? If a food fast isn't physically safe for you, you are not entirely left out of the spiritual weapon.
Right, there are other ways.
Exactly. The text introduces the media fast and the specific item fast as equally valid ways to reclaim time for God without risking your physical health.
A media fast is incredibly relevant right now. I mean, the book points out that if you spend 3 hours a day scrolling on your phone, that is 3 hours the enemy has to whisper lies, stoke comparison, and just steal your attention.
We really have to look at the neuroscience of what a smartphone actually does to us. Like social media and constant news cycles operate on dopamine loops. Every notification, every endless scroll provides a tiny hit of dopamine.
It's literally designed to be addictive.
Exactly. So when you engage in a media fast-removing social media, the news, television, or whatever digital distraction consumes you for a defined period, you are essentially initiating a dopamine detox. Your brain is going to experience actual withdrawal.
You'll be reaching for your phone without even realizing it.
Oh yeah, you will instinctively reach for it in line at the grocery store or sitting on the couch.
And that withdrawal is exactly where the spiritual work happens. When you strip away the digital noise, you suddenly have to sit in silence. You realize how much internal anxiety or discomfort you were drowning out with entertainment.
Yes, exactly.
The author mentions doing a 30-day social media fast and experiencing a massive drop in the constant noise of comparison. By removing the digital pacifier, you create actual biological and mental capacity to sit quietly, to read the word, and to pray without your brain screaming for a distraction.
And the specific item fast operates on the exact same logic. You pick a hobby, shopping, coffee, something that heavily occupies your time, your money, and your desire, and you set it aside.
Just put it down for a season?
Right. You take the energy and resources you would have poured into that item and redirect them toward God. But, choosing the type of fast is really just deciding on the mechanics. The heart behind it is what transforms it from a routine into a spiritual weapon.
Yeah.
And this raises an important question because that is exactly where the pitfalls come in.
Yeah. The book outlines a few major traps to navigate beyond the replacement and health pitfalls we just covered. And the most insidious one is the pride pitfall.
Ooh, yes. This is the classic Pharisee trap, which Jesus explicitly condemned in Matthew 6. It's fasting to look holy to others.
Like posting about it online?
Exactly. Broadcasting your fast on social media or looking intentionally miserable at work so someone asks you what's wrong. Or, casually dropping it into conversation just to signal how deep your spiritual life is.
Why does fasting specifically trigger pride, though? Like, why does an act of self-denial so easily morph into a superiority complex?
Well, because human nature inherently wants a return on investment for its suffering.
Oh, wow.
If our physical body is going to suffer deprivation, our ego demands compensation. We want someone to notice the sacrifice and validate it.
That is so true.
The brain takes the discomfort and converts it into a metric of spiritual superiority, like, I am hungrier than you, therefore I am holier than you.
Yikes.
Yeah, that is why Jesus said to wash your face, act normal, and fast in secret. If you fast to get applause from people, that applause is the only reward you will ever get. You've traded a spiritual breakthrough for a pat on the back.
That's a bad trade. And closely related to that pride is the legalism pitfall. This happens when we turn fasting into a religious box to check. We use it as a performance metric to measure our standing with God, as if He loves us more on the days we don't eat.
Which completely misses the point of grace.
Exactly. Fasting is meant to produce grace and dependence, not guilt, and a religious scorecard.
So to avoid those traps, fasting must have a clear spiritual purpose. You shouldn't just wake up and generically decide not to eat today. You need to decide beforehand what specifically you are seeking God about.
So what does this all mean for the listener? It means it needs direction. Are you seeking a breakthrough in a stagnant marriage? Are you looking for freedom from a specific addiction that keeps pulling you under? Do you need clarity on a massive career decision or healing for a friend?
Right, you need a target.
Purpose gives your fast direction, and direction gives your fast power. When you define the purpose, you are intentionally placing yourself in a posture of total dependence on His wisdom for that specific area of your life.
But we also have to manage our expectations here, which the text calls the expectation pitfall. Fasting does not guarantee God will give you the exact answer you want precisely when you want it.
It's not a magic spell.
Exactly. It's not about twisting His arm to force a yes. It's about seeking His will, even if His answer is no or wait. Fasting often does not result in a dramatic vision or a booming voice from the sky.
But we want that, right? We want the cinematic movie moment where the heavens open up.
We all do. But the reality is usually much quieter. The breakthrough might come as a subtle shift in your own heart. It might be a sudden clarity that arrives weeks after the fast ends. You don't evaluate the success of your fast by the intensity of your emotional experience during it.
How do you evaluate it then?
You evaluate it by your obedience. You did what God asked, you postured your heart correctly, and you trust Him to handle the results.
I think the most comforting part of this chapter, though, is how the author addresses the reality of failing at a fast.
Oh, this is so important.
Right. Let's say you set out to skip lunch. By 1:30 p.m., the headache hits, the hunger gets overwhelming, your willpower snaps, and you eat a sandwich.
It happens to all of us.
The enemy will immediately jump on that and tell you that you failed God, that you're spiritually weak, and that the whole day is ruined. But the book makes it so clear. You haven't sinned. You just stumbled into discipline. The advice is simply to wipe your mouth, give yourself some grace, and try again next time. It is about pursuit, not perfection.
Because it's physical and spiritual training. When you are training in a gym, sometimes your grip slips and you drop the weight. You don't quit the gym forever, you just pick the weight back up. The failure is actually part of the process of realizing how weak your flesh truly is and how much you need grace.
So let's bring all this theory directly into your life right now, for you listening. Based on everything in Chapter 9, we want to challenge you to choose just one realistic fast this month. Start incredibly small. If you are medically able, skipping a single meal is a fantastic, manageable beginning. Write down your specific spiritual purpose before you start. Have a clear target.
And set a definitive start and end time so it doesn't just trail off ambiguously.
Right.
And consider asking a trusted friend, your spouse, or your small group to pray for you while you do it. Accountability makes a massive difference. When you do start, remember the mechanism we talked about. Use every single moment of physical craving, hunger, or the urge to check your phone as an active invitation to pray.
To wrap this up, there is a fascinating concept the author introduces at the very end of this discussion, based on 1 Corinthians 9.27. Paul talks about disciplining his body and keeping it under control. The text notes that your body isn't your enemy, but it has appetites.
Very strong ones.
Yeah, the desire for food, for comfort, for entertainment. None of these things are inherently sinful. But if they control you, if you cannot say no to them, you have lost ground in your spiritual life.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, fasting is a way of reminding your flesh who is actually in the driver's seat.
I love that.
The discipline inevitably spills over into other areas. When you fast, you are strengthening your self-control muscle across the board. So ponder this final thought as you go through your week. If you can train yourself to tell your most basic, primal physical appetite no for just a few hours, what other emotional or spiritual temptations in your life might suddenly lose their power over you?
Man, if you can conquer the biological hunger of pain, you can conquer the anger trigger.
You can conquer the urge to gossip. You can conquer the digital distraction. It all circles back to that gym metaphor. Fasting isn't a medieval torture device meant to break you down. It's a specialized piece of training equipment designed to build up a spiritual muscle you didn't even know you had. We invite you to continue reading Armed with Grace by Dev Raghu for deeper biblical teaching on this. As you step out to try fasting this month, remember, you are armed, you are not alone, and you are never meant to lose.